Hello. This is long. I'm sorry. Thanks if you read it all. I'm 30 SF and don't live in the same state as my mom. My parents separated about 5 years ago. Amicable separation at the time. Still technically married, so she can be on his insurance. So she currently still lives in the house I grew up in with my brother, 22 meters, who just graduated college and still lives at home. My other parent lives nearby but separately. She does not work and has not since I was born 30 plus years ago. Due to COVID, I had only been home for a visit once in the past 2 years, and it was only for one night when I had to be in town for a funeral. It was so short that I didn't notice that much wrong. The house was messier than in the past, and she seemed a bit more quirky/loopy than usual. I tried to talk to her about it and expressed concern after that trip and she freaked out at me, swearing and telling me to mind my own business. I dropped it because out of sight out of mind. Recently however I went home for a full week, and I was horrified and disturbed by how much the state of things has escalated. The first huge red flag is, when she picked me up from the airport she proceeded to drive like a maniac 60 miles per hour on residential back streets. She even tried to run 3 separate red lights because no one is coming and then laughed when I was like, "Mom, what are you doing? Stop." She used to be the slowest, most annoyingly, to teenage me, careful driver ever. I finally had to yell at her to pull over and drive the rest of the way home myself. Then, the house is overrun with hoarding. She has always had an issue getting rid of items but this has escalated. Every room has stacks of boxes and random shit. She also now prints out every news story she comes across online and files away paper copies of them. There is an entire room that we can't even go into because it's so packed with shit. This room was my brother's room before he originally left for college. When he first had to move back home from college during COVID he was sleeping on the couch because she refused to clear the room out. But after he graduated in December he got his first job and it's a WFH job involving lots of Zoom, so he needed a private space. He is saving to move out as soon as possible. Rather than let him make space in this extra room, she gave him her bedroom. This was an argument at the time BC my brother didn't want to take it, but my mom just stopped going into that room and moved her stuff out so eventually he moved into it. I wish I could say she sleeps on the couch or something now but no. Over the past few months she has apparently begun sleeping on the floor in random places around the house. No blankets or pillows. She just lays on the floor. I thought my brother was exaggerating but when I was home a few times I was startled to walk into a random part of the house and see her literally laying as though dead on the floor. Then, the food situation. Hoarding has extended into food. We don't have enough room in the pantry for all the food she buys, so there's just piles of food on the floor in the kitchen, 10 plus unopened bags of chips, 3 giant unopened bags of flour, etc. The fridge smells like garbage when you open it. Nearly everything in it is expired and visibly moldy. My brother said she yells at him when he tries to clear out old food and that he has thrown away stuff in secret before and then find it in the fridge again the next morning, meaning my mom picks it out of the trash in the night. While I was home I made enchiladas for the family and before going to bed asked her where the Tupperware was so I could save leftovers. She said no worries, she will do it. 3 days later I noticed they were in Tupperware but just tucked away out on the counter. I went to throw them away and she yelled at me that they were still good and snatched them back. No, it's moist, cooked food that has sat at room temperature for over 72 hours now. When I tried to calmly bring up food safety she scoffed, and then when I pressed it, she got extremely defensive. Then, there's her additional visible mental deterioration. She has started slurring her speech quite a bit more than in the past and repeats stories multiple times. Like, she will tell the same story 4-5x in one day and get mad if you tell her she already told you. She will also be extremely mean to my brother when she never was when we were kids. She will tell him to fuck off. I overheard one such incident when he asked her if she could please stop sleeping on the floor in front of the only bathroom in the house, with so much vitriol in her voice. She is not the same person. She was a great mom who practiced gentle parenting. It's insane to me how she has changed. She used to drink when we were younger. I remember her making a cocktail for herself at bedtime my entire life, but told all of us that she stopped several years ago. When I was home I did snoop, and it's true that her normal liquor cabinet just had juice and coffee in it. But my brother told me he sees her with the mini bottles, like from gas stations, the $2 ones, in her pockets all the time. I'm worried that she may actually never be 100% sober, which would explain a lot of her bizarre behavior. It also is heart-wrenching to think that she'd be okay driving me/my brother anywhere if she'd been drinking. I know this is super long, but I just don't know what our options are. She refuses to admit she has a problem. She brushes off my suggestions to see a therapist or talk to her doctor about anything. And last time I tried to gently bring up my concerns, framing them as coming from a place of love, when things weren't even nearly as bad, she blew up at me. Is there anything I can do? It's heartbreaking to see her deteriorate like this, but I feel very powerless, especially living so far away. What do you guys think it is? Alcoholism? Some sort of dementia or something? I have googled so much about how to help Anne. Every site just says to be patient and give the loved one space until they are ready to accept help. But I don't see that ever happening. TL. Doctor recently visited mother for first time in 2 years and found she has mentally deteriorated significantly. Not sure how to help her. Have you talked to your dad about any of this? What's his perspective? Any way he could help you? Good question, and yes. He is also very worried and has tried to talk to her about it, but my mom flies off the handle at him and makes it all about the separation/his new partner instead of her own issues. If you're in the US, look to see if your mom's state has adult protective services. If yes, give them a call and see if you can work with one of their social workers about getting your mom evaluated and possible into care. She doesn't sound safe to live alone. You can also talk to a lawyer about getting a guardianship for her. Another first line option might be getting her in with her primary care doctor for a checkup and referral to a neuropsychologist who can look for more specific cognitive decline. If you think she will resist a doctor's appointment that you go to with her, call her doctor's office and ask for advice about how to get her in. It looks like she is past the point of being able to deal with the problem she is creating. My advice is to hire some movers/cleaners that specialize in this and schedule them for the weekend you 5150 her. This will not solve the issue of why she is doing this. It will cause her harm and anguish. It's up to you to decide if you think it's better for her to live like this or if it's worth the pain that will be required to deal with the situation. Either way, it's a difficult situation and you have my sympathies. You'll need to look into becoming her DPOA or getting guardianship because your mother is clearly unable to make decisions for herself. If there is anything acute going on, get her to the ER. Once the physicians hear about what's been happening, they will probably want psychiatry to get involved for an in-part hospitalization. She is a danger to herself and others at this point. If she refuses to go to the ER, you can call the police. It's not gonna be pretty, but she may have something medically going on with her poor diet and possible drinking. She might have fallen, she might have a UT, her electrolytes may be out of whack, she needs a workup. Call the police to do a welfare check, call Adult Protective Services, call both. The house should be inspected in case the house is a danger to anyone, and your mom needs to have her mental status evaluated in case she is a danger to herself. This the right answer. You can't likely force her to do anything, but hopefully apps can get her help and services. See if you can get her to agree to do a simple urine test for a UT. Sometimes UTIs can cause sudden severe personality changes in older women especially, and antibiotics could help her get back to her earlier self, if this were the case. Commenting to emphasize this. She is young for dementia, but not for UT-caused psychosis. I found out recently that a family member is hoarding, so I feel for you. And then the drinking and behavioral changes are scary. Will she let you accompany her on a visit to her primary doctor? You could mention all this. If all else fails, you could call the county to report her for code violations. That would at least force her to make her home safe. Her place might be a fire hazard. Interested to see what other commenters have to say. Are you in the US? In my state you can call the cops for a 5150 and tell them you think she is a danger to herself. They put her on a 72-hour psychological hold. I don't know how thorough the evaluation is though. I'd want to get her checked because the loss of inhibition is extreme. She is genuinely a danger to herself. You may also be able to get her license revoked, or at least the DMV would demand a retest, which is probably for the best. This is a way forward. This sounds like alcoholic dementia. My grandmother has it, and also refuses to admit to her problems, but she's not as bad as what your mother is going through. All I can suggest is not to enable her behavior, but she's already so stubborn there isn't much you can do, because she refuses help as you said. I'd honestly call a vulnerable adult social service and tell them exactly what you said in this post. Her reckless driving and her obvious early dementia signs will have them at least evaluate her and most likely have her committed. Talk to adult services in your area. They can help with info. My mom, who was a hoarder, went off the deep end towards the end of her life. We live in a state that makes it difficult to help older people who don't want to be helped. That's another Rainy right there. Her children were left unable to do anything. I wish we had gotten a hold of adult services sooner and had more understanding on how to document what was happening. Also, video documentation of the house and living areas will be good idea. There are parts of this that fit my mother exactly. The hoarding, the sleeping on the floor, the refusal to seek help. I won't eat anything she makes anymore because I got food poisoning. I'm down to just visiting her twice a year and waiting for her to die. At times I feel the same, and then I feel super guilty. We had a great relationship growing up, and she really did a great job parenting us. Something has just gone horribly wrong in her psyche since the pandemic, and it seems like it's spiraled out of control. But she is so unbelievably mean and harsh when we try to talk to her about it. It's almost like she enjoys being worried about. If she's willing, getting seen by her doctor and a neurologist would be the best start, but it sounds like she won't be willing. I think an APS report from you and maybe your brother is likely to be the best thing to start a paper trail. I wonder if the divorce triggered her hoarding and possible alcoholism. The problem with alcohol is that it can make it really hard to function normally. She definitely needs a psych evaluation, and it can make people very sensitive to criticism. The problem is, if she doesn't want to admit that she has a problem, then it's going to be impossible to fix that problem. Your brother needs to be more involved in the solution. It's possible that if she can stop drinking, maybe she can get back on the right track, if that's causing the other strange behavior. Hard to say. Sorry you're going through this. That sounds exactly like dementia. The first stage is them reverting to being pussy teenage edgelords, dramatic and easily set off. She needs to be evaluated, and you and your brother need to take control of the situation. She is no longer the adult woman who raised you. She will be angry, paranoid, and fight you. Dementia makes people very hard to deal with, so expect it to be way worse than you think she's capable of. The mean shit, it will get way worse. That F********Q is the start of an ugly road. A very similar situation happened with my grandmother, who has dementia. The most important thing is to get medical intervention ASAP, as it really helps. And please take the car away. Could your brother arrange an appointment with her family doctor and ask her to go with him for support? Can he get her there under the guise that the appointment is for him? She might have early onset dementia or Alzheimer's, aggravated by alcoholism and the isolation of COVID. Is it at all possible for you to go to a doctor on your own in her behalf and ask them for their opinion? I guess she needs at least medication, if not hospitalization, till she's stabilized, and probably is not fit for living alone. Since you seem to be in friendly terms with your father, is it feasible for you to talk to him about this and try to find a solution? Your mother is utterly, profoundly depressed. After my father died, much the same happened with my mother. She's oscillate between these manic and depressive episodes. She hoarded. She'd slur her words. She abused medicine and became a drug addict. She became cruel. Like you said, it was like living with a completely different person. I have no advice to give. It was a hellish period, and doctors and attorneys were no help whatsoever. She fought tooth and nail against treatment or legal resource. I only hope you find a way through this. Maybe you'll find something that I couldn't, and I hope you do. Best of luck to you. I'm so sorry you're going through this. And most of all, please take care of yourself. 3. Xanax. She's on benzos, I bet. Your tone is flippant, but it's a good comment. Benzos and other Z drugs have very strong links to dementia. Popular antidepressants, sleeping pills, relaxers and even antihistamines have all been reformulated in recent years due to the worrisome patterns of dementia later emerging in elderly patients. Someone managing alcoholism might well be comorbid for dementia if prescription drugs are involved. You or your brother can call the local police station and report her for drunk driving. Your brother could also call 911 when she leaves the house and report her car. Imagine when she inevitably gets into an accident, you will want to know that you did everything you could. I also agree with calling Adult Protective Services. They might not be able to intervene, but they should have some advice and local resources. Good luck. Keep us updated if you can. Anosognosia is a symptom that many experience, the inability to perceive your mental illness as a problem or even an actual mental illness issue. There are ways to help people with this symptom, but you guys need professional help to deal. And that's honestly the hardest part. Best of luck with treading lightly, but assertively. One route could be calling Adult Protective Services. Another route could be filing a petition to be her guardian and conservator. Someone will need to manage her finances and make sure her bills get paid. Someone is going to have to be around her at all times to care for her if she is deemed to be incompetent. If she needs nursing home care at some point and has behaviors, be prepared for her to not be accepted to the facilities of her choice because of the behaviors or to go through several facilities. Nursing homes see people with behaviors as a liability and they don't usually accept them. Hi there. I work in psych. This sounds like it could be one of a few things. Any chance she's started taking medications/supplements/recreational drugs that you're not aware of? The behavior sounds either like mania, which would mean an underlying diagnosis of bipolar, or late onset schizophrenia. Women have two phases in their lives where they are susceptible to developing schizophrenia and postmenopause is one of them. There is also a possibility that there is a cognitive decline going on like dementia or Alzheimer's, or another physical ailment like an infection causing delirium, though the timeline and behavior doesn't quite match with that diagnosis. If this were my mother, I would talk to her about what I've observed to be a change in her behavior. If she wasn't agreeable to that conversation, I would probably try to speak to her doctor and see if they would consider asking her to come in for an assessment. If that fails, some areas have mental health teams who will come to your home to do an assessment. If she's not agreeable to any of this, and you feel that her health and/or well-being is significantly deteriorating, your last resort is probably applying to the court for a mandated psych evaluation. If your area does that, best of luck.